Isolation, exploration, acquisition, progression, and a Chozo-enhanced woman in power armor. These are some of the things we think of when we hear the word Metroid. But for some reason, with the announcement of Metroid Prime Federation Force... Okay, geez, we get it. With the announcement of Metroid Prime Federation Force, that's not quite what Nintendo seems to think of. I'm going to try and be as objective as possible here, but it's hard not to think how Nintendo could miss the mark by such a wide margin. I think what stings the most is that this game is presented at a time when there has been no Metroid games at all. It's been 5 years since Other M, which in my opinion is still pretty fun from a gameplay standpoint. It was just another part of the game that let it down. Yeah, let's not talk about that. And of course, it's been 8 years since the last Prime game, the universe in which they say this game is set. Which makes no sense inherently, because Prime is just a set of 3 games within the general Metroid timeline. So, is this just the Federation playing around the edges of Samus's Prime adventures? You know when this game would have worked best? During that time that the Metroid Prime trilogy was actually a current thing. Then it would have been like a companion game, which would have been much more acceptable. But Nintendo decided to release a spin-off of an 8-year-old trilogy when people are chomping at the bits for a new Metroid adventure. The fans, myself included, are clamouring to be isolated, to explore the unknown regions of space, desolate planets, space stations, searching nooks and crannies for hidden items and secrets. And after all their patience and waiting, how are they rewarded? With a 4-player co-op game starring the equivalent of the Star Trek red shirts in the Metroid universe. It doesn't even take a high-power mathematician to figure out that 4 times the players means 4 times the shooting, 4 times less exploration, and 4 times less isolation. I mean, don't get me wrong, watching this game on the Treehouse, it looks like a hoot. Nintendo rarely skimp on quality, fun, and engaging gameplay experiences, and Blast Ball, it looks like an interesting diversion too. But it just isn't Metroid. When something feels like a thing and looks like a thing, it feels and looks like a thing. When Metroid went from 2D to 3D, people were concerned, some even angry. But once we got our hands on the Prime games, we understood what was going on. We understood that yes, this is still Metroid. But Federation Force? The gameplay is already very Prime-like. It's nothing new or something we need to try and understand for the first time. It's just Prime, with 4 players, none of which are Samus. In an interview with Nintendo's Kensuke Tanabe, he said that, until now, we've never had a game focusing on the Federation Force fighting against space pirates. So the main idea here is that I sorta wanted to change that focus a little bit and see it from a different view from the same universe. Who actually wanted this? In 30 years, there has never been a game chronicling the adventures of the Hylian army of Hyrule fighting against Ganon's minions. What about a Pokemon game, with the Pokemon police trying to stop Team Rocket? Perhaps the exploits of the Chimera Army Defense Force from Star Fox taking on Andross's forces? No, they haven't. Like I said prior, if this was a companion game to a Wii U Metroid game, or had been made during the time when the Prime trilogy was actually a current thing, they probably would complement each other really well. But standing by itself, after waiting 5 years for a new Metroid game, it's just a punch in the stomach. Tanabe and his team are obviously too close to the game to see the big picture. To him and his team, it's an interesting perspective to develop because they haven't seen it personally. But to us from the outside, with Metroid games being so rare, it's just an amazingly unwanted concept. Federation Force almost feels like a game that was originally something else, but just sort of got retooled into Metroid for no reason. It kinda calls back memories of Star Fox Adventures for the GameCube, the Star Fox game that was a really awesome adventure game, but just wasn't a Star Fox game. But hey, at least it starred Fox McCloud still. Look at him, he's so fluffy. It's really confusing, because why would you take an un-Metroid-like thing, 4-player gameplay, and turn it into a Metroid game, but on the other hand, not buy out and retool something like Fast Racing Neo, and turn it into an F-Zero game. I mean, look at this game. It's an F-Zero game in everything but name. It looks so good. Let me just put this here. Perfect. Where was I? Oh yeah. They've just been pouring time and resources into something that no one has even remotely been pining for. Nintendo are usually very good at giving us things that we never knew we wanted. In Federation Force though, it's not really one of those things. And if it is one of those things, they have done a terrible job communicating it properly. The 4-player dynamic of this game seems to be something Nintendo likes to do more and more lately, and that's force people to play together, which in itself isn't a terrible idea, but for Metroid, can you imagine having 4 players and one of them is a complete idiot? It's not like Splatoon, where the idiot can just help out by shooting the floor. 4-player co-op really requires 4 competent people to have fun, and I guarantee you this game won't have voice chat either. If it even has online at all. I think though, to make this game a lot more tolerable for the Metroid fanbase, there's 1 or 2 things I would try and do if I could sneak into Nintendo and do it. One is the title. If it needs to star the Federation Force, don't call it Prime. Prime is gone. Prime is over. Call it something like Metroid Universe's Federation Force. I know it's a slightly silly title, but it better communicates that it's not a core Metroid game, and Nintendo usually loves silly titles. And if you absolutely have to keep 4 players, I've got 4 words for you. Metroid Prime Hunters 2. Dump the Federation and replace them with Samus and 3 or more other bounty hunters. Maybe Nintendo didn't do this because they thought everyone would want to be Samus, and if everyone can't be Samus, then no one can be Samus. But if you made 4 or more than 4 equally cool and awesome bounty hunters with different powers and abilities, that would make one hell of a co-op Metroid experience. And since this game is set in the Prime universe, you could easily BS that all the previous hunters aren't dead yet. Just set it near the beginning of the Metroid Prime era. So ultimately, with the Federation Force set to release in 2016, the 30th anniversary of Metroid, it really strikes home the lack of understanding of the love of the franchise from the fans, and it creates almost the perfect conditions for the quintessential backlash. For the 30th anniversary, we won't be getting an amazing Samus-filled adventure to celebrate her deeds throughout the universe. We'll be getting a game about these guys. But don't worry, Tanabe said Samus will make an appearance. Gee, great! An appearance. Woo. When you use the word Metroid, we at very least want one thing. One little thing. To play as this lady. She is Metroid. If it wasn't for Samus Aran being who she was all those years ago, Metroid likely still wouldn't be around today. There's no Metroid without Samus, and no Samus without Metroid. And that right there, I think, is why people are most annoyed with you, Nintendo. I know it's why I am. Well, thanks for listening to me prattle on about this. If you think I'm right or wrong, feel free to leave me a comment below. Throw likes and subs as you see fit. I hope to start making a few more videos like this, so keep an eye out in the future. This has been Tracker1985. Farewell!